A new clan, Adeptus Mechanicus, has joined Tacticus, and the first two characters, Actus and Vitruvius, have been revealed. Today we'll look at their usefulness in legendary events and deep dive into the 6th legendary event that unlocks Vitruvius. Hello everyone. The Adeptus Mechanicus are here. As the top voted clan in the recent developer poll, we have yet another Imperial force joining the field of battle. We can already talk about the first two characters that have been revealed, starting with Manipulus Actus Fulgorosus, the Tech Priest Manipulus, or just Actus as he's known in game. You can gain Actus already by playing through the Motive Force event that will be running for the next week and a half. If you followed my earlier guides on character events, you should be well on your way to getting him at Epic 1 level. If not, I will try and do a refresher in time for the next character that is released. The second character is Magus Dominus Vitruvius Thanek, the Tech Priest Dominus, which is a serious mouthful and so his friends just call him Vitruvius. He will be joining the game later this month as part of the new legendary event, Praise the Machine God, that starts on 24th of December. As he brings a new legendary event with him, and the developers have been kind enough to let us explore it early, I have been able to add it to my Google Sheet planner. You will find version 3.5 linked in the video description, but there is one important note. I haven't yet added their upgrades, only their participation in legendary events, and the new legendary event itself. This means they won't accurately appear in the timeline, but I'm planning to do this over the weekend, and so you should see where they stack up against other characters in terms of leveling next week. But let's start with Actus. This strange little machine with his scary looking pincers coming out of rude places is a really interesting character, because he's the third healing character in the Imperial lineup, but this time he focuses on repairing mechanical characters. So he will fit in very well with the Necrons, Orcs and Revas, but he doesn't really have much of a place outside of his own clan in Imperials, as currently Morven Vale is the only mechanical Imperial character. So already for me it's a bit of a strange one, but as a healer though, he will definitely be strong in legendary events, and I'll probably be leveling him if it looks like he'll be useful in any way at all. If we take a look at his traits, he's also quite useful. He's an Imperial character with melee energy attack for 2 hits and a ranged energy attack for 2 hits. He's a mechanic and is mechanical, and finally has a flying trait. So not a bad collection of traits in all honesty, but we'll see where he scores in a little bit. Moving on to Vitruvius, who looks a bit like something out of a nightmare, he's a bit less interesting for me. I'm not entirely sure what the archetype he's meant to be fitting into because he only has 1 ranged attack and doesn't have much armor to get into the middle of fights. I guess his passive could be useful in later battles when you aren't quite managing to take down a big character, but his rad bombardment active is pretty much just a one-shot and done. In terms of traits, he's an Imperial character with a single power melee attack and a single molecular ranged attack. Again, I think as a one-hit character, I would much rather bring in Sizes along for his 80% pierce attack and heal, but I don't know, maybe there's just something I'm missing, so please let me know in the comments below. Finally, like Actus, he has the mechanic and mechanical skill. So let's take a look at their participation in legendary events. Starting with the On-She legendary event, Actus and Vitruvius both appear in the Alpha track in the no physical and max 2 hits battles. Neither of them appear in the Beta track because Imperials are not allowed to participate. And finally in the Gamma track, Actus appears in the no Overwatch and no power battles, and Vitruvius appears in the max 1 hit, no flying and no Overwatch battles. So not a great start for either of them. Moving on to the Shadow Sun legendary event. In the Alpha track, Actus only appears in the no Psykers battle. Vitruvius appears in the no Psykers and the power battles. In the Beta track, Actus and Vitruvius both appear in the Mech, no Bolter, no Piercing, and no Summons tracks. Of course, the last 3 are mainly filled by almost everyone, so that doesn't really count too much. In the Gamma track, it's no Imperials, and so neither of them appear. And so again, a pretty weak effort from both of them. On to Ragnar's legendary event, and it's a really similar story. In the Alpha track, Actus and Vitruvius appear in the ranged and max 3 hits battles. In the Beta track, Actus appears in the flying and no summons battles, while Vitruvius appears in the power and no summons battles. And then finally, in the Gamma track, they don't appear at all because it's a no Imperials ban again. So really similar scores, and everything really leads to these characters being middle of the road. But let's check on the Vitruvius legendary event. In the Vitruvius legendary event, it's good to see that Vitruvius himself is at least quite useful. He appears in all 5 battles in the alpha track, while Actus appears in the no psychic, ranged and no resilient battles. In the beta track, both of them appear in the max 2 hits, no infiltrate and no summons battles. And then finally in the gamma track again, it's no Imperials and so they don't get to participate. So at least a better showing from Vitruvius in this sense. So where do they fit in overall? Well, Actus is 64th position and Vitruvius is 29th position. So Vitruvius middle of the road, Actus, I wouldn't really bother with him if you're looking to use him in legendary events. I'm really looking forward to when Snowprint release a character which I can put at the top of my list and make absolutely priority, but for the moment, Ad-Mechs won't be my focus. So now let's turn our attention to how you unlock Vitruvius by having a look at his upcoming legendary event, Praise the Machine God. We'll start by going through each track briefly, looking at the battles, and then talking about some teams and tips that might help. In the Alpha track, we have the No Psychic battle for 40 points, Ranged for 75, Max 1 hit for 120, and Power 105. Then we have the No Resilient for 35. So max 1 hit and power characters are going to be important. With no Necrons, it really opens up a lot of possibilities to play around with teams. One noticeable difference though is that Isabella's shield team is only available in a couple of these battles, but I'll come back to some potential teams later on. In the beta track, we have the max 2 hits for 75 points, Piercing for 115 points, Bolter for 105 points, no Infiltrate for 30 points, and no Summons for 50 points. The Piercing and Bolter characters are going to be important. Of course, with Bolter characters, I'm already thinking about my Isabella shield team and being able to push them all the way to stage 11 or 12, but she's actually available in all 4 battles except Piercing, and being joined by Calgar, Bellator, Burchard, and maybe Helbrecht or Azrael, there is a lot of potential here for high scores. In the Gamma track, we have no Flying for 60 points, no Death Guard for 35 points, Power for 125 points, no Psyker for 45 points, and max 2 hits for 110 points. And we're looking into power and max 2 hits as the big ones. I definitely want to do a big shout out to my boy Toth here, who appears in 8 out of the 10 battles in the Alpha and Gamma tracks. And with that in mind, I think he's going to be my next character I bring to Gold 2. One thing that I really want to highlight is something I was doing in the Ragnar event. I was able to unlock Ragnar in his first event mainly because for each of the tracks I picked at least 2 gold characters and then just filled in the 3rd slot with someone and then covered as many battles as I could for as minimum for the least number of tokens possible, and then I took them and pushed them all the way through to stage 6. Even with just 2 gold characters and someone else to fill in, that was relatively easy. So let me show you exactly what I mean in the Vitruvius event with my own team. I have already had a look through the tracks and picked out some teams I can use. For the Alpha track, if you have any 2 from Calandis, Certus, Shosil and Azrael, then make sure they're at least gold 1 quality and then just add in one of them as the 3rd character and you should be able to push to stage 6, collecting over 2,300 points. In the beta track, I have the marvelous Isabella shield team and so we'll easy get to level 6, so that's another 2,236 points. Finally, in the gamma track, I can push on with Abaddon, Angrax, Morgan Ran, Toth and collect another 2,313 points. So already, even just getting this to stage 6, it'll give me nearly 7,000 points. It will give me nearly 7,000 points for only 18 tokens, and that's just a great start to the event. Anything over 100 points per token is good, and here we are at just over 380 points per token on average. From there, there's lots of opportunities to push further and open this creepy looking character in the first round already. The only issue might be the difficulty of stage 6. I haven't deep dived into it yet, but you get the idea of what you can try. One last thing I just want to highlight today is the changes to the top 10 overall best characters in terms of points in legendary events. Now, I'm quite specific with what I say there because the best characters for me are not always the top 10 characters. Who could deny Isabella's place as one of the best characters in legendary events, but she doesn't get the most points. Anyway, I'm going to bring in the previous top characters for you to see, and you can definitely see some movement here. The old characters on the right and the new list on the left. Onshi is still the king of the legendaries with a whopping 2,110 points. Calandis has jumped back up to 2nd place after being top dog for quite some time previously. Tyrant Guard is our newly released character, and with Nauseous Rotbone falling down the ranks, he moves up 1 place to 3rd spot. Maugan Ra also flies up and enters in at 4th place, meaning that the top 4 characters are all Xenos. The Chaos characters appear next with Angrax, Abaddon, and Volk filling spaces 5 to 7. Then finally, Snapareka, Rotbone and Athana round out the top 10. You may have noticed a serious lack of Imperials. Well, the first Imperial on the list is Morven Vale all the way down in 21st place. There's not a lot of love for the Imperials in this list. That's everything for today. If you have any comments or feedback, then let me know in the comments below.